So everybody, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about my dude Barabbas. Okay, so this is actually going to be an excerpt taken from 5 lessons from our best friend Neville. So I'm going to read literally less than a paragraph, and then we're going to actually dissect it together, okay? And why this is important. So this is page 27, if you have that exact book. And it starts with this. Here's the story. This is the feast of the Passover. Something's going to change right now. Something is going to pass over. Man is incapable of passing over from one state of consciousness into another unless he releases from consciousness that which he now entertains, for it anchors him where he is. So, we are always anchored. We are always anchored either in acceptance or denial, right? And so that means we're going throughout our whole day either in a state of acceptance or denial. And there will be moments throughout that day where you will be in a state of denial, but there will be also moments where you'll be in a state of acceptance. What you want to work on is you want to be in a more permanent state of acceptance. That's what you want to be your default reaction, okay? And you're going to know in which camp you sit depending upon how you're reacting to things in your world, okay? So remember, it's always, where are my reactions? Where are my filters? How am I perceiving what I'm reacting to? Okay, because either you're reacting from a state of denial, as in I don't have what I want, or a state of acceptance, as I am now the person who has the thing. Okay, so keep in mind that that is exactly the states that we are bouncing in between and in and throughout the day. So let me deal with that for a second, okay? Because I think there is this view that you can go throughout a day and you can have 50% acceptance or 50%, denial, or 90% acceptance and 10% denial. That's where you want to work towards, of course, but you're still going to manifest your desire, even if it's 60%, 40%. Okay, yes, you want the higher percent to be acceptance, meaning accepting your desire, okay? But this idea that you have to be in a consistent and constant state and you never ever have, or you should never experience doubt, that's kind of against the point, because Neville says in one of his books, he says, you will always, keyword, have God and Satan with you, okay? What does that mean? That means you will have doubts. You will maybe even have moments of anxiety. You might have weeks, months of anxiety, right? Now, obviously, that's not where we want you, okay? That's not good psychologically, let alone spiritually. So, obviously, we want to deal with whatever it is that's kicking you out of state. So let me just go on the record and say, if you're dealing with chronic anxiety, you need to focus on that first, okay? Because then we can talk about you manifesting everything that you want and getting the life of your dreams. Because if you're trying to manifest and every single time your default is, I go anxious every time, then we need to actually work with you and work together to help you down regulate. And that's one of many techniques that I share in my other video on anxiety, right? But we are passing over from one state to another. This is what Passover is about, the biblical, spiritual, mental metaphor of us going from one to the other, okay? And so that means you have to have the consciousness of the new state. What does that even mean? Because I actually, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the word consciousness. It's too woo-woo. I don't like it. Consciousness just means, what are you aware of? What are you noticing? What is noticing you, and what are you noticing in your world? Okay. And so where is your mental energy going when you think of money? Where is your mental energy going when you think of loneliness? Where's your mental energy going when you think of love? Whatever it is, then you can find out where those reactions are. Okay. And where they're coming from. And if those reactions have a memory attached to them. Because as you know, if you spent more than 5 minutes on my YouTube, that a state is not just an idea. A state is a series of multi-layered things that you are combining into one thing that we call an identity or a perceptive lens or beliefs, right? And things that we're consenting to according to Neville, okay? So you have to be able to be aware of that, because that means if you are actually going through the day and you're getting easily kicked out of state, then that means there are ideas that you've accepted. There are beliefs you have normalized. There are feelings that you think you are. And here's the crazy thing. If you keep repeating those things, your brain gives you dopamine. Dopamine is not just a neurotransmitter of reward. It is, but it's also a neurotransmitter of repetition. Okay? So every time you repeat something, you end up actually getting rewarded. There's also something else here that I'm going to go deeper into a future video, which is this idea that every time that dopamine is deployed, so is oxytocin. Now, if you know about anything about oxytocin, that's also deployed when a woman is having, hugging her baby, okay? And it's the love drug. It's the caring drug. So what does that mean, and why does that matter here? Because if you don't have a strong connection to your desire, right, and you're not changing and you're not shifting, that could very well be the reason why. Is because you are not producing enough chemical oxytocin in your body to be able to say, I care about this enough. So you have to actually be able to generate a deep-seated love for your new state. You have to love this person and separate this person, right? So when Jesus says, listen, you must deny your mother and father and so on, it's not some physical world challenge to hate your parents. It's not whatsoever. Those are all mental. What beliefs are part of the family of beliefs that are reinforcing your current state or identity, right? So deny those. That means don't give them airtime and then begin ignoring them. This is what Neville says. If you go throughout your day and you have doubts and you have problems and things keep kicking you out of state, get to the point where you can ignore them. People think, I've got to, like this is like day one of them learning how to manifest. And they're like, I've got to just ignore everything. And then that causes more pressure, which can then cause more anxiety, which can then lead to depression. So you don't want to do that. If you are struggling with manifesting and you have gotten to the point where you're spiraling all the time, work on your mental health first. That is always the priority, okay? That is always the priority, because without your mental health, you're not going to be fully aware of what you're doing anyways. So this is about awareness. That's what this is. God is your awareness. Okay? So I would encourage you to do loads of self-care, loads of self-love, if that's where you are with high anxiety. Okay? But if you can and you are able to control your focus enough, then realize that the Passover itself is also another technique, because it's saying you're shifting consciousness. You're no longer that person in that universe. You're now this person in this new universe where you have your desire. And that person thinks about things very differently. It doesn't mean that you'll never have those thoughts ever again. It just means that when you have those thoughts, you distance yourself from them, because you're no longer identified as that person who has those thoughts. You're now this person in the new consciousness, in the new awareness, living out the life that you want, living out the life that you deserve. So again, the Passover is a very, very powerful biblical metaphor about what's happening mentally, and what should be happening mentally is kind of this dualistic process that's not happening at one time and then another time. You are consistently in denial and acceptance. I know a lot of people may disagree with that, but you can learn how to do this. And I'm going to end with this. What Neville is doing here, and we're going to go into the psychology of this in another video, but he's literally altering the pattern of human thinking, okay? Because I think a lot of people read his work as, oh, I dip in and out, right? I'll do this when I need to manifest something, okay? And I'll just take it when I need it. That's not manifestation as an art or a science, as Neville calls it, right? This is a lifelong thing. But why is it altering or changing your mental patterns? Because the way in which we've been taught, okay, especially in science and evolution and biology and the biological sciences, is that our brain is inert or passive and it's just doing things, okay? That is a lie. As somebody who is trained in the like human brain sciences, right? That is an absolute lie. Your brain is constantly active, right? And so what that means is Neville is shifting us from accepting this idea of our brain being passive to our brain always being active. Now, not in the way of, oh my gosh, I need to be hyper vigilant and always need to watch thoughts and emotions and push. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that you are the operant power. So you are the active one, right? And so you do want to get to a point. And again, I know other even fellow psychologists in this same realm might disagree with this. But really, when you read all of his works, he is changing the way and the pattern that your mind works for life, okay? And you have to be then not vigilant, because once you train your brain to do this, that's the new passive. Your new passive brain will be, I'm always aware of what I'm doing. I'm always aware of where I'm at, right? Does that mean that you don't have moments of daydreaming? No, of course you do. But you're controlled. It's a controlled reverie, right? You are actually controlling the daydream. And to the point that when you are daydreaming, you're daydreaming about beautiful things, not fear-based things, okay? And again, I'm going to talk about that in a video where I break down his technique on 18 hours. Yes, that's how long we need to be doing this. So again, this is very radical. I get it. It's very extreme, even for maybe fellow psychologists. I get it. But what I want to do is I want to encourage you to rethink how you change your consciousness, not as something that you dip in and out of, but something that you're doing every second of every day because you're doing it anyways, right? So, challenge number 1, set. Let me know what you think about what I'm sharing here below.